This is Ask a Couples Counsellor, a show that answers all the relationship questions you're too afraid to ask. On the show, we'll take your questions and give you the tools you need to build trust and intimacy with your partner. I'm your host, Neha Kapoor. I'm a registered clinical counsellor and psychotherapist, and I'm really passionate about helping couples navigate the challenges that we all go through. Because after all, every relationship encounters some stormy weather now and then. Thanks for joining me for another episode. Today, we're diving into a very popular subject, sexual compatibility. We'll explore whether or not sexual compatibility should be a deciding factor when it comes to choosing your partner, and if you're in a relationship where you have mismatched sex drives, I'll break down some strategies that could help you overcome some of these issues. All right, let's get into it. All right, so let's get into our first question for today. Now, this question comes in from Alex in Sydney, and the question is, when choosing a partner, should sexual compatibility be a deciding factor? What a great question, Alex. I'm going to break this question down a little bit. So we'll start off by answering what is sexual compatibility, and then we'll talk about why is it important in a relationship. And then the most important part of the question, should it be a deciding factor when choosing a partner? So let's talk about sexual compatibility first. What is sexual compatibility? So sexual compatibility refers to the degree to which two individuals are well matched in their sexual desires, their preferences, and their behaviors. And it involves factors such as libido, sexual interest, communication, and a willingness to explore. So it's the level of satisfaction that you feel in a relationship. So when partners are sexually compatible, they're more likely to have a fulfilling and satisfying sexual relationship. And why is this important in a relationship? Sexual compatibility is a very important factor in a relationship because it directly influences the level of satisfaction and intimacy between two partners. So what happens is that when both individuals are on the same page sexually, they're more likely to feel understood, fulfilled, and emotionally connected. And this is because of the bonding hormone oxytocin, which is released during sex. I spoke about oxytocin a little bit in my last episode, so if you haven't already listened to that, I would strongly encourage you to, if you wanted to find out a little bit more about oxytocin. So what this does is that it helps to maintain physical and emotional intimacy and foster trust, and it can also contribute to overall relationship happiness. Additionally, sexual compatibility can help mitigate potential sources of conflict related to sex and intimacy, which are quite common amongst couples. I do see a lot of couples that do come in talking about how they have conflict around sex and intimacy. So, should it be a deciding factor when choosing a partner? Well, look, sexual compatibility can be an important factor in a relationship as it contributes to your overall satisfaction and intimacy. However, it is just one aspect among many that contribute to a successful partnership. So other things like communication, shared values, emotional connection, mutual respect, they're all crucial in choosing a long-term partner. So should sexual compatibility be the only factor? I would say it's an important factor, but it shouldn't be your only factor when choosing a partner. So let's get into our next question for today's episode. This question was submitted by Irene in Melbourne, and the question is, how do you deal with mismatched sex drives? What a great question, Irene, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners would want to know, how do you deal with a mismatched sex drive? So I'm going to answer this question in two parts. The first part is going to be, what is a mismatched sex drive? And the second part is, how do you deal with a mismatched sex drive? So what is a mismatched sex drive? A mismatched sex drive occurs when one partner has a higher or lower level of sexual desire compared to the other partner in a relationship. This difference in libido can lead to challenges in intimacy and satisfaction if not addressed and managed effectively. So it's really essential for couples to communicate openly and work together to find ways to bridge this gap and maintain a fulfilling sexual connection. Now, how do you deal with mismatched sex drives? So dealing with mismatched sex drives in a relationship requires open and honest communication, empathy, and compromise. Because remember, this is quite a touchy topic, so you need to be quite empathetic and understanding of your partner's perspective. Both partners should express their needs and concerns without judgment. Some strategies that you could use to address mismatched sex drives could include finding alternative ways to connect intimately, such as through non-sexual physical affection, without the hope of it leading to sex. So things like holding hands, sitting close together, hugging, a peck on the cheek, or snuggling up on the couch are some examples. Some other things that you could do are shared activities like date nights, fun activities that instill a sense of joy and humor, and building things together or doing anything that fosters a sense of closeness and connection. I also suggest seeking professional help from a therapist or a sex therapist and exploring ways to increase understanding and empathy for each other's perspectives. It's very essential to approach the issue with patience, empathy, and a willingness to work together to find solutions that meet both partners' needs. Communication, shared values, emotional connection, and mutual respect are also crucial. All right, that's it for today's episode. Stay tuned for the next episode where I'll be exploring the topic of cheating and could sexual incompatibility and mismatched sex drive be a contributing factor in infidelity. I'll see you in the next episode. You've been listening to Ask a Couples Counsellor, a show that answers all the relationship questions you're too afraid to ask. This show is produced by Novo Empower Counselling. We provide a range of services, including couples counselling, individual counselling, and online counselling. To find out more, visit our website novoempowercounselling.com.au. This show was produced with strategy and production support from Wavelength Creative. To make sure you don't miss an episode of Ask a Couples Counsellor, be sure to subscribe to or follow the show in your podcast app. And while you're there, I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review. It really helps others find the show. I'm your host, Neha Kapoor, and I'll see you in the next episode.